pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Hoffman.
Here.
Alderman Schuman. Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
Here.
Alderman Osteen.
Here.
Mayor Hutchinson.
Here. All right, we're going to start with citizens' communication. This is a time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending via online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor and board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although the staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input and feedback from the public. Is there anybody here in person who would like to address the board? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the Alderman meeting August 3rd, as well as the bills list for August 17th, 2023? And do we have any comments or questions or concerns? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second? Alderman Rose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved. All right, we do have a short meeting on the books, but we know how that can go sometimes. So, one thing, unfinished business, it's Bill 23-63, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 625, massage establishment, Article Section 625.010 definition, 625.030 rules authorized, 625.040 inspections, 625.050 facilities necessary, 625.060 general operating requirements, 625.080 applications, 625.090 notice of hearing, 625.100 issuance, 625.120 revocation or suspension, 625.130 transfer, 625.140 required, 625.150 application. This is the second reading. Tara Barrett.
I have no further comments unless anybody has any questions.
All right. The board have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman. Roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman. Alderman Hoffman.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Moving on to new business, and if I don't have any objections, I would like to move C, which is discussion of the city park athletic fields, discussion to first. We do have a speaker from Ballpark National here. If anybody has any objections, if that's okay? All right.
It's fine.
Very good. All right. Eric Gregory, Parks and Rec Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. At our August 3rd meeting, I mentioned that the Parks Department is exploring different options to expand rentals of our athletic fields to include coordinating tournaments and Little League games. This was prompted by a proposal from Ballparks National to partner with the city and take over operation of our 3 city park fields and since then, operation of the concession stand. We did meet with Jeff Vernetti and his team last month to discuss the proposal and logistics that would go along with it. Essentially, there should be the proposal in your packets for you to review. Ballparks National is proposing taking over operations of the 3 city park baseball fields for $75,000 a season or $9,375 monthly. They would be responsible for running weekend games, leagues, camps, clinics, and other tournaments, and would handle all deals with third-party vendors. They would also run the local youth leagues and would be responsible for hiring, paying all games and officials. I'm not going to just paraphrase here. They would provide their own liability insurance. The Parks Department would provide game mounts, equipment needed to run events. And since our meeting, they did agree that they were interested in running our concession stand as well. So during the meeting, it was also made clear to Jeff and Ballparks National that per city ordinance, if we move forward with this, a request for proposal will be created and will be open for bid for other similar organizations that might be interested. So basically, as your Parks and Recreation Manager, I'm open to trying this, but honestly, I'm cautiously optimistic. The partnership positives will increase revenue for the city. It will utilize our facilities more. It will be an increase in tournaments, which will be more money spent locally in hotels, restaurants. It will also free up time for the parks team to work on park improvement projects, more family-friendly events, and honestly explore expansion of our parks. That being said, I want to make sure that the Parks Master Plan is still a priority, and I don't want this to be a distraction from that. Another point is we're essentially privatizing the operation of our facilities. They're not necessarily a bad thing from what I understand. Nothing like this has been tried before, but after researching with other cities in Missouri, it's been quite successful. So Phoenix Park will still be open if the city residents want to use baseball fields as a first come, first serve. But honestly, the partnership will limit some public access to the rental of our facilities in City Park. So that being said, we felt that it was important that this proposal was placed as a discussion item on the agenda this evening before moving forward with doing anything else, before creating scope of service or an RFP, so that we can answer any questions the board, or if the board's not going to support this. In short, I'm open to trying this. I think there's a lot of positives for it. So we'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have. Jeff is here, as the mayor said. He can answer questions as well, so.
Yeah, and actually, I'd asked Jeff Renetti, called him last week, and I was involved in this from the very beginning, and I think it's a wonderful thing to look at, discuss, mull over, but I do see a lot of positives, so if you don't mind, Jeff, come on up and do your spiel, and then we'll have questions and comments from the board.
Thank you for having me. He pretty much did my spiel, so thank you. I don't have to say as much. This is unlike me, actually. I don't have to talk as much. But no, thank you. I appreciate the consideration. Whether it's us or another organization, this is the direction a lot of cities and municipalities are going because of the popularity of youth sports, the revenues involved, and really it's a staff-driven business, and most cities just don't have the personnel to run athletic facilities full-time. That's where I totally understand the RFP process. We're doing it on our construction at our fields. I get it. I understand that has to happen. I'm very confident that our staff and our team would be one that would be selected, or one that if you don't select us for one reason or another, you should look at the things that my organization has if you select someone. You need to have someone that can not just run the tournaments, but also the food and beverage, the customer service, people, Mike especially, that you guys run your own leagues. You know the complaints that come in. You need people to be able to deal with those, understand them, vet people, umpires, background checks. Just there's so much that has to go into it. I'm 100% confident, or I wouldn't have brought the proposal to the mayor and to you folks to consider. It's a big dollar amount on our side, but the proposal in front of you was really just that. It's in pencil too. We're very flexible. I mean, I live here, a full-time resident. I have businesses in 3 cities in the Lake area. That was my motivation to this. Ballparks National is going to have 8 fields for 2024, but we will only have 3 that can support high school age baseball, which your 3 city park fields can do. Also, the central location is right near all of the hotels that we currently send most of our teams to. About 80% of our teams stay in either Osage Beach or Lake Ozark. They don't stay in Camdenton or anywhere close to the park for that matter. So there'd be a real synergy there. There's a lot of complexes like myself or people that operate a complex that use multiple sites in one general geographic location. So this is very common for teams to have that flexibility. One thing, though, that I wanted to add is I think we would actually enhance the local use of the fields. Our staff would take that over as part of our proposal, if you're willing, but we wouldn't just take reservations. We'd be out soliciting reservations. We want the teams to practice, hold tryouts, hold games, hold scrimmages. It would not just be, hey, let's have some tournaments on the weekend. Our idea is that the park is pumping 6 or 7 days a week as much as possible. Because I think you guys have a really good city park fields. When we did our touring of the country really to look at what we wanted to build for our private location, we went to over 100 city parks, and you guys are, the layout, the design, the parking, and then I've seen the plans for the expansion. That's super exciting. The additional parking, all of those things, trust me, we won't get in the way. We would love to help, support, advise, give ideas of wrongs or rights, things that we screwed up and had to fix. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that what we're looking for is a partnership, not just a rental. If this was just a rental, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't have the interest. So we really want to grow youth sports in the area, leagues and facilities. I have an indoor sports training facility in Osage Beach, LOZ Sports Training. It's off Runabout. In May, we're going to be moving it to a new location right behind Lowe's next to the Expo Center. It's going to be 10,000 square feet. So we're already expanding the youth operation, and that's not just for high-end players. It is for rec kids and kids that are just starting and T-ball kids and all of that. It's for everything, all in between, and not just baseball and softball. So that's kind of the long-winded thing. I think from my business perspective, we need more fields. We were 93% sold out at Ballparks National this year and 100% sold out from first week of May through the last week of July. We were at capacity. That's why we needed more fields for what we're doing. We could use 5 or 6 more fields after this. You know, the demand is there because I think that we're building a good brand. There's been over 5,000 hotel room nights the last 2 years. That number is going to double next year. We've just our field capacity. We've had over 100,000 visitors, and that's just on 5 fields. So I just think that with the partnership, we could bring even more people to the area. And then, as you nicely mentioned, that only benefits restaurants and hotels and stores and shops and everything else. So, and it's also, I think, just as a resident here, it's the type of people that we want visiting the lake area. It's families. And it's a year-round business. I mean, we're barely ever closed at our place. So that's kind of the idea for it, but we are very, very flexible as the RFP hopefully comes out. If there's things that weren't in our proposal that we have to adhere to, great. And if there's some things that we have to change, that's fine. But this is something that a lot of cities are going to. I know the city of Eureka, where I used to live, they're doing a similar plan. They're turfing their city park fields and leasing them out. There's a number of others. Branson's city park fields are going to this sort of a plan. They're really close to Ballparks of America down in Branson. So this is not unheard of. But whoever you select, whether it's us or someone else, you need someone that, in my estimation, that can do it all and not be a headache and adhere to whatever policies or regulations you have, but hopefully bring people in and drive revenues and be out of your hair. But I think we can, well, I know that we can do that. So we have the staff and the infrastructure. We would put full-time staffing at the park. We would have people dedicated to helping the maintenance team, prepping games. I've looked at all the public finances that I could pull over the last couple of years, and the concession revenues have continued to drop. I think we would continue to raise those. We have ample staff on both the part-time staff and the umpiring crew. My management team is ready and excited for this because they're all, again, local guys that have families here that want to see. We don't want our kids to keep going to Lebanon and Eldon and Jeff City and Springfield to play. So that's sort of our part of the idea. But I'd love to take any questions. Sorry for that long-winded thing, but I really do think there's some synergy here.
I'll jump in here too, and thank you, Jeff. In our meetings, another thing I brought up, and I'm definitely in favor of this. I mean, I was, from the very beginning, I wouldn't say pushed for it, but it's something that I've been in favor for. And what I like, and I asked Eric about this in one of our meetings, I said, if you didn't have to get the umpires, if you did not have to go to all these games with our master plan, how many things could you do at the park that you can't do right now because you have this? And that would take that burden away from him and his staff, and then they could start doing everything else down there with the canoes coming in and with the frisbees coming in, and we make some money off of it. They bring in their staff, and one thing that's real informational too is in our discussions we talked about having a calendar. So the blackout dates, if we do have so many blackout dates, those are ours. They simply will go on the calendar. It's not available for tournaments. So
Yeah, no problem.
yeah. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Rose.
Would this be on an annual contract or longer than that?
My hope would be is, it'd be as long as you folks would allow it to be. I would assume, though, it would be, prove it for a year and then hopefully enter into a multi-year, because we're going to have a significant financial investment beyond the rental of the fields.
Right.
Equipment, staffing, insurance will go up, all of those things. So I would love it for us, after we prove ourselves, if we were selected, of course, that it would be a multi-year relationship.
So we sign up for how long? I mean, is 1 year contingent upon or several years, or how we?
Majority of these I've seen have been 3 to 5 years to start. There are others, though, that are significantly longer if the partner, like myself, would be making a significant financial investment. Like if you guys would say, we'd like to turf the infields, it's going to be $1 million. Will you cover half of that? That's happened. That happens in a lot of cities. If we would put in that significant of investment, we'd want 10, 20 years, the length of the turf probably. So it just all depends on what you'd want. If you want to try this or any company out, I'd recommend doing a year with a couple of year option and seeing if you like it, seeing if we work, seeing if there's a problem, and if there's not, give that company first right to extend.
Okay.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
And the insurance, I guess we would be sharing that with liability and whatever?
Well, we would fall probably under whatever property insurance you have for the actual things that we don't own, your fencing and all that, I'm sure that we could contribute to if there's an additional cost. But that should be like it always is every year. We would 100% take on the liability of insurance. So if there's any injuries or anything that would happen involving the games, it would be our responsibility.
Okay. Thank you.
To answer that as well, Eric and I had a lengthy meeting where we discussed, we kind of issue spotted a lot of those issues. We've got probably 2 single-space pages worth of notes and to-dos that would need to go into this to kind of cover all of those what-ifs or even-ifs.
Okay.
Cole, would you?
Oh, just a second. Mike Weldy?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Just one more comment just to answer Alderman Mayrose's original question there. We would be looking at a 3 to 5 year contract with the same yearly out that we have with all of our contracts. So we would give, I can't remember whether it's 30 or 60-day notice mutually between each, both the contractor and the city.
Okay.
So we would protect the city in the same way that we have with every other contract that we have for any type of service.
This would be on our form.
Thank you. Well, I think it's a marvelous thing. What a wonderful concept for us, not concept, and wonderful thing to happen to Osage Beach. Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Alderman Hoffman.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to jump in there. Mr. Welty, kind of answered my question. Would it be possible to have a 1 year contract and then renew without opening it back up to bid?
Yes.
Okay.
So we do options in our agreements. We've got that in, quite a few, like I think some of the tech agreements I've done for the police department in the last few months. That's common. So it would be, we've spotted tremendous number of issues and kind of, like I said, the what-ifs that we would need to cover in this, just to make sure that they're covered, that we're covered, and that there's no surprises down the road.
Yeah, we use Golden Rule Insurance and locally, but they outsource it to West Bend Insurance. Already talked to them. This is a very common thing. They would work with our attorneys, your attorney, and extend our coverage. Our coverage is substantial at the park now, so it would meet whatever requirements you have.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes, I have a number of questions and comments and concerns. First of all, the master plan. Eric, do you see this causing any challenges for what the master plan is? What's your view? I realize we've worked a lot through the master plan and it's obviously a document that changes, and it's understandable. Negatives, positives. I see both negatives and positives with the master plan. I just want your viewpoint before I express mine.
Well, overall, no, I don't see any issues affecting the master plan. Again, I just don't want it to be a distraction from the master plan where we get focused on this. And again, I think it could be a very good partnership and very good for the city. But we need to move forward with the master plan. But I don't think this will really affect that overall in any way.
Well, as I see the master plan, I see the positives in the fact that this should give us some revenue, which would assist in moving the master plan forward. I see some negatives where I'm concerned that our park down there will not have opportunity for our locals to enjoy it during the time of the tournaments, because the tournaments will be so packing the facility there. And that is somewhat of a negative, but on the same vein, knowing that going in, maybe there's some things that we can make sure that's available either at Phoenix or on the other property that we're trying to obtain. Along with that, in the master plan, this brings a bigger concern to me. I kind of backed off on one of my concerns. Now I'm going to move it back up on higher on my list, and that is the removal of the ballpark over in Phoenix. With the facilities down here being used an awful lot, the availability for mom and dad and a couple of kids in the neighborhood to go down and play some ball is going to be limited. And that park over on Phoenix that we're going to be removing would be a place for that. So that's the concerns I have, both negative and positives, on that master plan that I think would need to consider.
If I could speak to just I should have probably given an overview and not assume that everyone understood the business of really sports, but I understand your concerns, but as we run tournaments, they're typically only on the weekends. This idea was formed, I was at the City Park Memorial Day weekend, always one of the busiest baseball weekends, softball weekends of the year at Calvary's church in the park on the soccer fields. And I sent the mayor a photo of all 3 baseball fields not being used Memorial Day weekend. It's a crying shame. It's like a vacant hotel on a holiday weekend. So the weekends have never really been a lot for locals. Local leagues, games, tournaments have all been weekday. And then playing in the church league that rents the fields out here and in other things, unless something has changed that I don't know, you can't just walk onto the baseball fields, the 3 fields that we're interested in, without renting them. They're not just open for play. You've got to do the rental unless that's changed. But the weekday business, the weekday use of the fields would be 100% locals. I mean, the majority of our tournaments, sure, there's some that starts on a Thursday maybe, but they're not Monday through Thursday typically, especially March through May and say now through November. They're only the weekends because kids are in school. The weekday business would be 100% locals, and we would be driving that for moms and dads and families and teams and coaches to use them way more than they do. They don't use them a lot now, so we want to go find them to bring them to the park more and make it more inviting for them to, hey, come play, hey, have tryouts here, have camps here. So, no, this is not driven by, we want to just fill this up with visitors. This is more to increase the local business equally as much as the weekend business. The weekends right now, and again, unless I'm wrong, have been tournament operators that rent them. They run their own, weekend baseball and adult softball tournaments and stuff. That's no different than what I do. They just only rent the fields and don't care about anything else. We would care about the entire 7-day-a-week, making the park shine kind of thing. But no, this would be to drive local use. We would not want to get in the way of that.
I still say, I have concern, this is our citizens' parks. And we are going to take these parks that we have spent many hours and dollars in, and we are now going to say, no, they're not available. In order for me to support this, I need to see, not from these folks, but the RFP that we put out, I need to see what we're thinking about as far as how many days and how many hours and when those are, that the park is not going to be available to Johnny and Susie, our local citizens. That right now it is. And that's my concern. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, we can make some money. Yeah, we can take that money and put it into the parks and enhance the parks, but also these parks are here for our citizens, and I want to find that happy medium. I'm saying it's not there, but at this point with what I'm seeing, it's not as clear to me as what I need to be in order to support it.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you, Alderman.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm absolutely in agreement with you, Alderman Rucker. And as far as Penick, your earlier question, it's not set in stone that we're even going to get rid of Baseball Field 1. That is up to the board. You'll see a proposal on my budget for that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you whether we get rid of it. If we do, we still have Field 2 available for public use. So as far as holidays, currently, we feel it's very important to give our staff holidays during the summer off to be with their families. That is extremely important to me. More important than having tournaments on the weekends. That's not all we do. We are a parks department, and we provide a service to the public. We do events. We do all kinds of other things. So our focus is not just renting out the fields, and it shouldn't be. We're a parks department. This is their business. This is what they do. But I am absolutely in agreement with you. We do not want to deny our citizens access to our parks. And you're right, we need to find a happy medium. We need to, if that means a certain amount of days are available for just the citizens, then yeah, I'm in agreement.
Yeah, and that-
And in answer to your question, the baseball fields are open, first come, first serve, if we don't have anything scheduled.
And we wouldn't
so.
change that. Our whole goal would be that process right now would stay in place. We would just take the burden off you during the week. Our proposal, we won't make any money during the week. It's a money loser for us, but we would take that burden off the Parks Department and everybody else it would be first come, first serve. I mean, the use from regular citizens would not change.
And this is why we're having the public hearing, but Eric and I had a lengthy meeting after you met with the mayor and
Yeah.
Eric, and we've gone through, kind of sketched out what an RFP would look like. Eric and Gina and the mayor and I think we all kind of just said, like, this is something that we ought to kind of float as a trial balloon first, make sure that the board's on board with it before we go, because this is going to be the most detailed and complicated RFP we've done in a non-public works setting, certainly since I've been here, and from what I've gathered, probably for quite a bit before that. We have pages and pages of notes, and no offense to Mr. Vernetti at all, but they may not even be the winning bidder. So it will very much depend on who can propose the best combination of financial compensation and other terms that work well for the city and work well for the Parks Department. I mean, to spare Eric's guys on the weekends so we don't burn them out and lose them, while financially benefiting the city and still providing access to the parks for the public. I will say, just from a personal note, I take my kids to both of our parks, and I very, very rarely see the baseball fields in use. So, other than during league play, which is currently organized by Eric and his department.
Alderman Osteen.
Excuse me.
I'll
Come back to my list. I wasn't done.
This raised some concerns on what was just said. One of the tasks we've given the head of our Parks Department is to A, increase utilization of the parks, and B, increase revenue. Even if we don't contract a third party to manage part of these facilities, I feel like that we're effectively saying increase utilization and increase revenue, but to a certain dollar amount or to a certain body count. Because if we're wanting him to increase utilization of the parks and increase the revenue, we're saying, but we don't want them full-time being used. We want them to be available for the general public on certain days or certain periods of time. I feel like then we're going to cap the ability to increase what we're asking them to do. That's just playing a devil's advocate, but I feel like it's a catch-22. We're saying one thing to one audience, but we're saying another thing to another. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Because we're saying, okay, well, yes, increase the revenue, but wait a minute. Not so much. Back off. So if that's the route we're going to go, then we need to put a cap on that, saying, okay, increase revenue by X dollars only. Anything above and beyond that is going to cut into time that's going to be open to the general public for free use. Just a comment.
Alderman Morose?
I didn't see anywhere, and I'm probably a silly question, but is there some kind of a commission fee or something that Ballpark National charges for this overall management of handling this?
I mean, we'll charge.
sorry?
We'll make money from the teams when we have paying tournaments. So we
Okay.
charge the teams to play tournaments, just
Okay.
like the other vendors that currently rent your fields, they charge the teams and basically make that rental fee back.
Okay,
So,
I
yes.
just wanted to clarify that. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yep.
Alderman Ruckert?
Yes, back to my list. I guess maybe I should have said right up front, I'm not opposed to this. I'm opposed to the fact, I shouldn't say that at all. I'm not opposed to this, but I don't believe there's enough information here yet. And that's what this is. This is a discussion, and that's why I'm bringing these questions up, so that they don't have to be answered tonight. They can be brought back so that we can further digest it. That's some of the issues and many of the issues that I have. So anyways, moving forward, my concern or question is we have capital replacement items and things that we do down at our park. And again, I don't have a problem with it increasing them. I don't think it would decrease them, but I guess just what would be the impact on that? Again, are we going to see that we're going to have to be dumping more money into capital things down there? Are we going to have to be replacing lawnmowers more frequently? Are we going to be replacing concession stands? Are there things we're going to need? And again, that's some information that I would look for you to bring back to us, just to let us know whichever way it's going. Again, as the attorney said, this is a new thing. This is something different, and I just want to try to cover all the bases and as much as we can. That's why I've given a lot of consideration. Capital needs. You mentioned something about blank-out days or blank-out times or whatever. Again, that would be something, I have no idea, how many there would be, but what are we looking at? Again, what would be a reasonable option for us to consider? Obviously, these people are going to want it. They're going to want at least so many days and times that they're going to want it. So we're going to need to listen to what they're going to be wanting, but we also want to keep as much available. Bob, to what you just commented there, I don't think we've told him that no, we don't want him to grow the park. Right now, we're discussing it, and how much do we want him to grow it? I think that's some decisions we've got to make, but these are some of the things we need to provide us that information to how much we want it to grow, how much we want it to be, the park to be available, and how much we don't want it to be available. I think that overall that, with the consideration that my little brain's given it just within the last 2 days, to be very honest, I think it's something I'd like to see us move forward. I'd like to see some of these answers and some more thought process. Can I support it? I don't know until I get some more of the information, but I think it's worthy. It's something we should consider.
And, sir, I could answer two of those quick ones. Again, not assuming that we're the company to get it or even if the RFP would look this way, but our initial proposal was that we would oversee those fields 7 days a week from the beginning of March through basically Halloween. but it was explained that the seeding and certain things take place in March, so in our meeting, we had talked about they probably wouldn't be available till April 1st or in that general range, which was fine with us. So it would be to try to get it as many days as possible. The blackout days were more of, you know, your events
Fall
that you,
festival,
the
yeah.
fall festival and current Osage Beach big events that those fields and get, you know, the when you bring in food trucks and all that. Yes, of course, we would, you know, gladly step aside. On the equipment side, our thing did not request nor require the purchase on your behalf of anything for us. So it would just be use what you got now, and then our assumption would be is if a mound fails or if something happens, it gets worn out, bases break all the time, that we would just replace those, and then if the deal would end, it would be our equipment. But that would be up to however the deal would be written. But we are not coming in asking for any equipment purchased at all. The fields, for our sake, are fine as is. It was discussed, in fact, that a burden on the field, on the staff, excuse me, would be when games get played on dirt, they need to be drug and bases, you know, bases lined, base pass lined, and bases moved and mounds moved, and that requires a burden of the staff. We wouldn't ask for any of the Osage Beach Parks staff to be involved with anything that, other than they were going to mow the outfield, but we were basically going to prep the fields under their direction and supervision. So we weren't going to try to use any resources.
Yeah, to be clear, whenever, because I'm very transparent with our team at the Parks Department, and I shared this proposal, and the first thing was, you know, during our season, we have to come in late at night after our tournament games, Friday and Saturday nights, and reset the fields. And, you know, right now, we lost all of our seasonal, so that's on us to do. And so you're extending our season quite a bit, and they weren't a big fan of that, and I wasn't either. I mean, and I don't blame them. I mean, you know, you got to come in just about every weekend, in theory, every Friday and Saturday night, and reset the field. So I said, hey, if your staff can come in and take care of that, we will take care of everything through the week. And we can be available on weekends if needed for whatever reason, but they were quite open to that. As far as equipment, and again, we don't have to answer all these questions now, but we maintain the fields regardless, and the grass, even if we have tournaments or not. If you go down there right now, the park probably looks better than it has been all season, and our tournament got canceled Saturday. So go check out the city park this weekend. It looks really good, you know.
And see, if we would cancel or another company would cancel as part of this agreement, the rent continues. You know, that's just up to us. You know, if it rains out, things get rained out, things happen. But no, we weren't looking to put any additional financial burden on the city whatsoever.
Staffing has been a challenge for us. We lost all of our seasonals halfway through the season. I'm unable to open the concession stand the rest of the season because we only have one full-time person working, and one person can't run the concession stand by himself. So this would alleviate that. They would take over operation of the concession stand. They would staff it, do their own inventory. You know, again, that's just one small part of this. Umpires has always been a challenge. They have a pool of umpires that they have access to. We advertise and advertise, and we just can't seem to get interest. So, again, a lot of positives, a lot of questions. I think it can be worked out. At the end of the day, though, it's your decision. So,
Alderman Hoffman.
I echo a couple of things that Alderman Rucker brought up. I am concerned about our local citizens playing Little League here. I grew up on it. It's very important to me. So I guess my number one question is, do the Little League teams only get to play Monday through Thursday now?
No, but that's how the league works now. It's only a weekday league now.
It's only Monday through Thursday?
Full disclosure, the league is dying. It's splintered, it's separated. We want to try to help bring it back.
Okay.
Yeah, in popularity, because it's really baseball and softball have really changed. Teams have gone too competitive, and we want to try to revert that back to everybody should play.
I was more concerned that all of a sudden parents who are used to being able to take their kids out and play a Little League game on Saturdays, all of a sudden that's taken away for lack of a better term, big business. So I just want to make sure we're not taking something away from our Little League kids and families. Nope. So to the point of the umpires who do work down here currently, would you bring them into the fold, or is it strictly you're using your own people, or?
Love to talk to anyone that you have that would love to do more games. That would be great.
Okay. So my last thing, and I find this to be an interesting proposal, but it does bring up back to Pickney Park. All of a sudden, I feel like we need that baseball field back. And I just wrapped my head around, we're going to get rid of it. And now I'm thinking, maybe we aren't. So I feel that the master plan, and if this is all going to work, that probably has to be hashed out too, which direction we're going to go with that. So just a concern I'm bringing up to you, Eric, and where my head's at with that. How many teams, you got 3 fields down there. How many teams do you make up a full tournament over a weekend?
Yeah, 3 fields over a course of a normal tournament, good weather considered, and just a 3-day event. You're looking at 25 to 30 teams, depending on the age group.
Wow.
So that's, times that by 12 to 15 players, depending upon boys and girls, and then usually a team's good for 40 to 50 people is what our estimation is, with grandmas and parents and people that come to watch. So it has the potential to have 500, 600, 700 people in the park in a given day, using the concessions and using the other amenities that you guys bring along. And
Another thing that I've brought up during our meeting too that we talked about that I really like is you think about tournament teams. They're coming from St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, and they've invested $500 to come up here, and all of a sudden they look at the forecast and they're like, oh no, I mean, do we want to spend the money on a hotel? It looks like 80% chance of rain, and we know how good they are forecasting the weather. But incorporating some of the games being played out at their ballpark, they're going to be guaranteed some games on turf. So if the weather doesn't look good and they can't play here, maybe they don't get 5 games, but at least they get 3, and they're still coming to our city rather than staying home because of the forecast.
exactly.
Alderman Ross, I was wondering about you.
So I find it interesting, and I find it very concerning at the same time. One, I'm trying to figure out, and I know that we're not trying to decide this necessarily tonight, but we expect to continue to run the concession stands or not?
They have proposed taking over the running of the concession stand as part of the agreement.
Well,
Okay.
if I can interrupt just real quick, because initially we talked about that and he did not put that in the proposal. And then in our meetings, Eric was saying, boy, I'd sure like it if you'd take over the concession. He said, I would love to, but I didn't know that was an option.
It would be
Yeah.
additional revenue beyond my written proposal. My proposal was just for the fields, because my assumption was that you had the staff to run the concession. But if we're able to do that, we would gladly do it, and staff it, pay for it, and then charge an additional either rent or percentage of our sales. It's done multiple different ways. That's totally up to you. We would probably have to bring in some of our own equipment and things like that to help enhance it. But no, I have a management staff of 10. I have a part-time staff of up to 60 during the season. I have an umpire pool of over 100. It won't be a problem to staff it any hours of the day. My management team works 6 days a week from March through October. So they're ready for the challenge of this. And so anyone that you select, make sure that they have the staffing and that sort of infrastructure to take this proposal on.
So from a complexity standpoint, I would suggest that if we move forward with an RFP, that the concession stands be in there so that we can see what kind of revenue that could be generated through there compared to what we're already doing. Mm-hmm. One of the challenges, you brought it up, is that the revenues at the concession stands and the fields, from what I can see, are either stagnant or declining. And I think we need to look inside ourselves to figure that out. Why can this gentleman staff umpires and we can't? Why can this gentleman staff concession people and we can't? Okay? We've already outsourced our IT department. We've already outsourced our engineering department. I'm going to ask the question rhetorically, and don't expect an answer, that I asked Mike about 1.5 years ago. When are we going to get done hiring everything out? We'll just hire out Mike. Okay? Might as well hire out Kerry. Why do we keep going down this path? We need to look inside ourselves, and those are our concerns. I don't expect any response from you, of course, okay? Because that's internal, all right?
Yep.
However, the reality is if we can't, we can't. And so we're going to have to decide whether or not that's a we're not good at it program or we don't have the right people program. And that's what the nuts. But I think everybody needs to think of it that way. I don't have a problem going out with an RFP, but I think we need to be strategic. It sounds like a lot of people have talked about it. If we can put more people out there, great. The fact that we had no one there on Memorial Day weekend, I found very interesting, to be quite honest. I didn't realize the Parks Department was an 8 to 5 banker's hours deal. That's what it kind of sounds like. Okay? I had no idea that we just decided we don't rent our fields out on holiday weekends. And then we wonder why we don't have revenue? So, with that said, let's see what the RFP says, but we need to look at ourselves and see if we're doing the right things for our own citizens too. That's all I have.
Any other comments or questions? Alderman Rucker.
Well, I think that a lot of cities are doing things of this type of resourcing things out, and I don't have a problem with it. I realize Alderman Ross does, but I don't. I think it's the way to do business, and I don't see anything wrong with it. So I support the staff and outsourcing of some of those things, and there's a lot of positive in that. So I defend the staff for those reasons. My question to you, sir, from a vendor, okay, to help us out, so we can develop a time frame. When does an organization like yours need to know that they have obtained 3 more fields? Is that something you need to know in October of this year to get started for next year?
Well, I was hoping Cole might have the RFP
December,
with him and I could just take it with me. No, as soon as possible.
I'm just trying to look
Yes, sir.
at what kind of time frame we need to develop with what we've talked about here tonight.
Industry typical. Summer or schedules for 2024 tournament schedules have already gone out, ours included. Teams do their tryouts in July to set their 2024 teams, so everyone kind of knows where they're playing next year. This is on the tournament side. Most teams will begin to sign up for events in November. The prime time, though, is January, February. 80% of our revenue takes place in the first 2 months of the year, and then we have to sit on it. So our plan is that whether we get this or not, this would just be an addition to our current schedule. We feel like we could fold this right in. If we would win this, we would just make more slots available and alter our schedule a little bit, like the mayor said, to get combination of usage, but it would be easy on our end.
I know Eric and I talked about a timeline. I know because that's important to you. And I just thought it was important for Eric to discuss this before we spent more hours.
Yeah.
But we think we can be in front of the board as early as the first meeting in October. So.
Mike Welty, you had
Depends.
something?
Well, I was just going to echo what Gina said, but I think the more important thing to consider here is if we put a contract here like this in place and the vendor that gets it doesn't get to take full advantage of the first season, that's not something that we should be really worried about. What I think we should be worried about is making sure we get it right, because they will get to take full advantage of it in year 2 and year 3 and year 4 and even beyond that. So I think what's most important for us, and I agree with Gina and I agree with what Mr. Vanetti said, and I think October is doable. But I don't think that's really what we need to be worried about, is trying to make our timeline meet, the vendors around us. The timeline needs to make sure that it is right for us. And I don't think any vendor is going to be worried about a couple of months on the front end of a contract if it means there's a long-term partnership that's going to come into play that will last for years and years. And one more comment on PNIC. I totally understand what Alderman Hoffman and Alderman Rucker are talking about with those fields over there, but I want to remind you both that the Park Master Plan said that we have a huge gap in playground facilities. And so I think what you would see is a lot more people interested in going to a destination playground at PNIC Park where you have a family-friendly environment than they would worrying about a ball field so that they could, so that every so often in an afternoon, a dad and a little girl, a little boy could hit the ball to each other. We're still going to have the ability to do that. Jeff is not going to fill every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. at that field. And if he's not using it, there's no reason why Dad and little Jimmy can't go out there and hit the ball to them. Now, I know Jeff is probably going to tell me that he's going to try and fill every minute of every day, but there's always going to be time for our local residents who don't have a reservation to just come out and play, whether that's at the one field that we still have at Phoenix or downtime at the fields that we have at City Park.
Well, not every daddy and little Johnny can play catch at 10 a.m. on Tuesday either.
I get that. That was just a comment. It could be 2 a.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, you know what I mean, or whatever, but that was just a comment, sir.
All right.
Sorry.
Alderman Hoffman?
If I could, I realize that Eric said that he doesn't think that this affects the master plan. It does to me. Just from sitting here talking tonight, I feel like it does affect the master plan. It does the way, at least I look at it. And I'm not changing that. I've changed my mind completely, but it has altered my perception of it a little bit. I had one last question. Your staffing, is most of your staffing local, or do you bring them in from all over the place?
Umpires come in from all over the place, but everybody else is local.
Concessions would be local, everyone's local. So you're drawing from the same employment pool we are?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have a lot of questions, but at least moving forward for the RFP, do we have a consensus that we can do that?
Is that a roll call? Or?
Well, I don't know, it's not a motion at this point. I mean, all they're looking for now is to send out an RFP, and then,
Is there a list of questions and stuff that you would have at some point before you actually put an RFP in place that you could share with us?
You know what, I'm gonna put Cole and Eric on the spot. They have done a lot of work. If you guys want to send, CC me on it, but send Cole and/or Eric, any concerns, you make sure get in there. Once we get some kind of rough draft, we will share it, take a peek out of it. I know we're kind of gonna be on a time crunch, I understand, because I think, make it a win-win. I agree with, Mike Welty that we want to get it right, but I also think we can get it right and meet some kind of timeline and still not be talking about this. Because it is important to get it out and we follow our ordinance, and that's why Eric and I were very we want to give ourselves enough time. Middle of next week, we'll know if we hit a rock wall and maybe have to reassess, but I think it's fair to share a draft, and that way if there's something peeking at you guys don't understand, that way we can kind of keep it going, but keep you in the loop.
And if I could just add one more thing, I'm sorry, I know that it's been a lot longer than what the mayor asked for, but I just want it just 100% clear. In my mind, if this works the way that we have proposed and the way that we could come together to do this, a local resident would notice no difference whatsoever in the use of the fields from how it is now to how it would be under our management. It would only be enhanced. This proposal is not to drive away or limit any father and son, any mother and a grandparent, whatever. It is not to limit any of that. It's to enhance it. So John Q. Citizen will not notice a difference.
Very good. Anybody have a problem with us doing it as Gina proposed? We'll come up with a draft and take a look at, all right. Jeff, Eric, do you have anything else?
I'd just like to clarify, I'm a little over a year into the position, and I came in as a Parks and Recreation Manager. If the board feels like the Parks and Recreation Department needs to concentrate just on renting out our facilities every weekend, we could certainly do that. But that would take our focus off of a lot of other things, of parks itself. If hey, it is your job to contact these tournament directors, and I want you to fill as many weekends as possible, including holiday weekends, we can try. We can make that effort. But in my mind, that is not what my role is. It is a balance. We have these nice facilities to rent out. We provide that service, but they are parks at the end of the day, and we need to move forward in a direction to turn them back into parks and not sports complexes. So that's all I have.
Very good. All right. Jeff, thank you very much. Eric, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to move on to first item of new business, Bill 23-65, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, adding to Chapter 210 offenses, Section 210.050, administrative search warrants of the Osage Beach Code of Ordinances. This is the first reading. City Attorney Cole Bradbury, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This ordinance came about as an idea from a presentation at the Municipal Attorneys Conference about a month ago. One of the presenters was discussing these and in particular how to use them. An administrative search warrant is essentially a version of a normal search warrant. A normal search warrant is something that Todd or one of his guys would use to go look for drugs, to draw somebody's blood at a DWI, look for anything that's evidence of a crime. An administrative search warrant is essentially a scaled-down version of that, and it's used to look for code violations. So I discussed this with Ron a little bit, and what piqued my interest in this was at the time we were dealing with an issue where we had a code violation, and the violator's attorney had instructed us to stay off the property. Now, in this case, we didn't need a search warrant for that issue because the code violations were visible from the street. But in another situation where we're looking at a more technical and less obvious situation, perhaps somebody is running an illegal kennel in the basement or running a chop shop in the backyard or has some other kind of code violation that we'd like to investigate, but we're not allowed on the premises to investigate. This ordinance allows us to do that. Now, to be clear, we actually have this power now. I mean, I can go and ask Judge Smith for one of these anytime we want, but because this is a change in how we've done things, I thought it was appropriate to go ahead and enact the ordinance just to spell out and make sure we had the board's blessing to proceed with this process. Otherwise, these are really, it's exactly what it sounds like. We have to prove probable cause. Either Josh or Lloyd or Ron or an officer would have to swear out an affidavit. Judge would have to find probable cause, have to be a particular description of the thing to be searched, what we're seizing. And unlike a full search warrant that we would go to Judge Smith or really one of the judges down in Camdenton for, this is much less of a carte blanche to do whatever we want. This is we're going in to look for a particular thing, a particular code violation, so that we can establish the evidence we need to either abate it or if we need to charge it as an ordinance violation in municipal court. So really what this does, I think that the takeaway is that this right sizes the process for code violations. It keeps code violations and the searches for them in municipal court where they belong. It keeps them out of state court in Camdenton where frankly, they have bigger fish to fry, and it makes the process smoother and keeps everything, in the city for city ordinance violations, and it keeps it in front of a judge who is a lot more familiar with our ordinances than one of the county or circuit judges down in Camdenton. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is really just, the idea of this is really just to put this tool in the toolbox, make sure we have the board's blessing for it. That way, if we do ever need it, it's already on the books. And we don't have to come back, add an ordinance just because we decide we need a warrant at some point. There's really no plan to use these. I don't have a single case that we're working on right now where there's any glimmer of wanting to use this in a particular case, but it just seems like a good idea to have a tool to put in the toolbox.
All right, any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Hoffman, do I have a second? Alderman Morose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Last item of business on new business, a motion to approve the purchase of a 2023 Ford Interceptor utility from Dunn Ford Company of Stigler, OK, at a cost of $48,970. Chief Davis, please.
Mayor, members of the board, as you're aware, back in June, we had one of our police cars involved in a head-on crash on the Glazed Bridge. The driver of the vehicle was traveling the wrong direction, intoxicated, and did not have insurance. We did file a claim with our insurance company. The vehicle was a total loss. Unfortunately, it was one of our newer vehicles, a 2022 Ford with only 10,000 miles on it. The insurance company did total the vehicle. Their evaluation is giving us $39,831 less $1,000 for our deductible. So we're looking at a payment of $38,831 from the insurance company. I've been able to locate two vehicles that would fit our vehicle specifications. One is in Stigler, Oklahoma, and the other was in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Due to the market, it's very difficult to find vehicles. Dunn Ford came in at the lowest bid of $48,970, and the police department recommends purchasing that vehicle.
All right, any comments or questions from the board?
Just-
Alderman Ross.
Just a quick one, Todd. So is there still outfitting costs that are involved too, or is that included?
No, we'll still have to outfit it with our outfitter that does our installs.
Which is, I'm just curious, that's still another, what, 10 grand or something?
Now, right around probably $3,000 for Dale to install that. All of our equipment, the majority of all the equipment out of the crash car, we were able to salvage. We do need to buy some push bumper brackets that were messed up in the crash, but the light bar cages, radios, all that is transferable.
All right, thanks. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Motion to approve. Alderman Osteen, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Hoffman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion is approved. Next, we move on to department update list. We start with City Administrator Gina Woods.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. First and foremost, you probably got an email, Lake Area Chamber of Commerce Fall Dinner, save the date. It's in later October, last Monday in October, 10/23, unless there's Halloween, I guess, but 10/23. Tara, at some point, will take the reservation or RSVP information for the mayor and board later, but check your email, mark your calendars. Luckily this year.
And my last meeting as president of the board.
Well, then we all must go. Luckily, this year, it didn't coincide with a budget workshop. I tried to keep that in mind, so we do have those budget workshops scheduled the end of October. We'll obviously get more information out with that as well. As far as the update list, I will say Alderman Rucker is keeping me on my toes on the capital replacement plan, although he's doing a lot of the legwork, so I do appreciate that. Incentive guidelines, hoping to have something to you soon. I did never really receive any other comments after the strategic plan about the outline I had sent, but kind of putting that in a little more formal structure. And I believe other than that, we have an extra week this month, so we won't meet till after Labor Day, so have a good Labor Day. Last final hoorah for Lake of the Ozarks, I guess they say. Anyway, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty.
Thank you, Gina. I forgot about the extra week, and now I have an extra week to get my agenda items done. This is awesome. Thank you very much. I do have a couple of updates I want to share with the board. First of all, I'm very happy to announce that the sewer foreman candidate that we sent an offer letter to did accept the offer. His name is Chris Duncan, and he will start with the city on September the 5th. Yes. Chris is a previous employee. He worked with the city as a level 3 tech for, I think, 6.5 years. So he comes to us with a lot of experience. He also worked closely with our sewer superintendent during that time. So I feel very confident that we have a great leadership team in sewer and a nice start to turning that team around and kind of getting back on the right path there. We also, as I mentioned last time, do have a new sewer tech who is actually starting on Monday. So we're making a lot of progress in the sewer department from a personnel standpoint, and that is a very positive thing for me to share with you. Second thing, I want to talk a little bit about Rockaway real quick. So our team has went through a couple of really, really arduous and painful weeks as we have tried to get this up and running, but I have a lot of good news for you today. All of the All of the plumbing for all 3 of those pumps has been replaced and is in good working order. We do have redundancy on the station now, so we are kind of out of crisis mode. Obviously, there is still work to do on this station. As I mentioned in many of my emails, all we did and all I was allowed to do by ordinance was what was required from an emergency standpoint. There's still a lot of work yet to be done on that station, and to that end, myself and Nathan, our sewer superintendent, and our engineering team will be meeting next week to discuss the next steps and prioritizing not only that station, but also Sands and moving those projects forward so we can get the 2 biggest stations in our city back up to full capacity. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. City Clerk, Tara Barth.
City clerk's office has no crisis this month. We're good to go.
Yet.
You just jinxed yourself.
Don't you even start.
City Treasurer, Carrie Bell.
I have nothing.
All right. City Attorney, Cole Bradbury.
I have a couple of things for closed session. The only other update I do have is that I did circulate this afternoon updated ordinances for stormwater drainage to address some issues that we've all kind of been talking about together. And I circulated those to Carrie, Ron, Cochran, and Mike and Gina for their comments. And once we have some consensus around that, which I think they're pretty camera ready, we will get those posted on the website for public comment, and then they will go to Planning Commission in September. So that would have them in front of you, first meeting in October. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Chief Davis.
Nothing.
All right, Ron White, building official.
I have nothing to add tonight. You guys probably seen the work that's been, I do have something to add. You've probably seen the work that's going on outside. Everything's been going real smooth. Cochran's been doing a great job directing those guys and keeping us in the loop with all of the communications. Couple of things. Congratulations to the sewer department, their 2 last management hires. I've had experience working with them and can't say enough good things about those guys. And as far as the city clerk's office, just ask her about the crickets. Thanks.
About the what?
Crickets.
Oh. All right.
Okay, then.
Airport, Ty Dinsdale.
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. All right, Michael Ray, Human Resource.
Mayor, members of the board, our employee survey closed this past Sunday. I'll begin pulling all the data and bringing a summary in the next week or 2. Gina and I met with loggers Tuesday, and he should be presenting for the board here, I believe it's the first
9/7.
the
September
first
7th.
meeting in September. Again, I'm putting together a summary for the board to kind of go over all of the plans. Like I said, there are 144 different plans. We're just going to kind of do an overview of the highest, mid, and low instead of going through all 144 of them. So we should have that here in the next week or 2.
All right, thank you. Parks, Eric Gregory.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder. Oh, it's not on. There we go. We posted the managed deer hunt information on our Parks Facebook page yesterday. Registration opened. The 2023 deer hunt will only be private land registration due to low harvesting numbers. Private land must be at least 3/4 of an acre or more. Registration forms will be available through the city website or at City Hall. Once both forms are turned in through email or dropped off at City Hall, permit will be sent to Hunter via email. For more information, call the Parks Department at 302-7460. Also a reminder that we just posted the information about the Osage Beach rummage sale coming up on September 16th. Instead of, a new thing we're going to do this year, instead of at the City Hall, we're going to host it at the City Park. We felt that there's a lot more room and availability for parking there. Fee is $15 per space. It will be at City Park, 950 Hatchery Road. We will have Bless This Burger food truck and a lemonade food truck there as well. So if you have some stuff you don't want, bring them on out to the City Park and we can help you get rid of them. And the weekend after that, September 23rd and 24th is the Fall Food Truck Festival. I met with the Food Truck Coalition a week or two ago, and we had 17 food trucks for the spring one. We are up to 25 for the fall one, so we think it's going to be a much bigger deal. And so we're preparing for that, and we're excited about the upcoming events.
Very good. City Planner, Kerry Patterson.
I have nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes, a couple of things. One, Cole, the stormwater ordinance that you're talking about,
Yes.
once you get it to a point where you're ready to release it, could you also release that to the board?
Sure will.
So we could,
We're gonna get it out for public
because I know
comment.
I'm sure you understand, we have a lot of interest in that piece of legislation.
Keenly aware.
Thank you. Second of all, remember the shootout weekend, support that, but also be aware that what's going on out there and stay off the water, I advise. And also, for those that haven't taken opportunity to the new event that we have in town at the Main Street Opera facility, which is a Capital City production. They are expanding what they're doing, and there's a number of new shows that are coming down the pike. They're also, I've had conversation with them, and they're getting close to presenting the 24 schedule. And so it looks like it's moving forward, and it's a lot of good entertainment, a lot of very reasonable entertainment, and it's good for our community. So I think it's just something we want to support. Other than that, have a good, safe weekend, holiday weekend, and stay at home and let the tourists have their fun.
All right, Alderman Hoffman.
I just want to say thanks to the staff. Was down here a lot this week for bringing me up to speed on things or helping me find answers to any questions, even if they ended up being no. I do appreciate your time and your due diligence on it. And it is going to be a busy weekend. The last two are usually pretty hectic. So I hope our police force is ready. I know we've got some good people out there, but let's keep them in mind. They're gonna be busy the next couple weeks. So other than that, just thanks to the staff, and everyone have a safe weekend.
Thank you. Alderman Osteen.
I'm going to shock the board and state I have nothing to add this evening.
Oh, my God.
Alderman Moreau.
Mark your calendars.
Well, first of all, of course, Ward 2, which is Alderman Hoffman's and my ward, if you haven't been down Jeffries or Nichols recently, the developments are really progressing quite rapidly. And it's quite interesting on Jeffries that I don't know when they're going to start tearing down those two old homes that are there, but nevertheless, they've already started putting up some, what do you call it, concrete blocks, whatever, a little bit more ornate for their boardwalk to go around. And it's been quite interesting, let alone on Nichols. You can even see from as you know, from the Parkway, the building that I think is the clubhouse, and starting for the apartments. So, and I'm very glad to see that kind of progress. Other than that, I just say, hey, thank you for everybody, and we'll look forward to having a safe next couple weekends. Some of the schools have already started, not here, but I know in Kansas they already started this week. Like Monday, I have two grandsons that started last Monday, and now we're looking at next week for Osage and Camden, right? Yeah. So beware and just stay safe. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Ross.
Thank you. First of all, kudos to Mike, recognition to you and Nathan, I believe, for the staffing at the sewer department. It's great to see. I know that's been a challenge, and there's been a lot of improvement quickly there. So kudos to you and Nathan. A question around a couple things on the list. Emergency generator backups. Are we up to speed on all those, or where are we at?
So, as I told you in mid-August, we were going to have both Sands and Rockway up and running. Clifford Power was in town 2 days ago. And I am still waiting for their report on all of the other sites, but they got Rockaway up and running, and we do have Sands up and running, but we do have a slight problem at Sands. It is not the ATS switch, that's been replaced, everything's good there, and it is not the generator, that's in good shape. It is the panel itself. There is a roadblock in the panel itself, so I have reached out to ECC, and we are going to see if we can get that fixed. So, I get one thing fixed, and then all of a sudden we've got something else that we are looking at. And furthermore, Alderman Ross, we are in the process of budgeting for 2024, and one of the things I'll be adding to the 2024 budget is a complete panel replacement for both Sands and Rockaway. So while we're going to try and patch it now, we are also looking at complete replacement of those panels, which, as you know, are now 20 plus years old anyway. So it's time to replace them anyway. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Yes, but at least the second one, and that is a lift station panel replacement plan that's in the, I think that's part of the capital plan, as I recall. Is that completed?
The lift station panel replacement plan?
Yeah, that's.
Are we talking about the 8 that were in the ARPA grant that we didn't get? Is that, I'm sorry, just to make sure we're on the same page?
It's on this list right here. It says project updates.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Lift station panel replacement plan.
Right, so some of those were scheduled to be replaced in the project that we had over the summer, and that project the bids on that project were rejected because, well, actually, I don't think we got any bids on that project. So, so that project's going to go back out to bid, and then, like I said, the 3 largest ones. Actually, the 2 largest ones, I'm also going to be, I should mention, I'm also going to be pursuing the replacement of the panel at Margaritaville, because that's another one that's on the list. So in one way or another, sir, every one of those panels has been addressed or will be addressed, if not this year, in the budget for next year.
Okay. The only other thing I have is on September 13th at 5 o'clock is the Wing Fest again this year at the Regalia. The Ozark Rotary puts on along with Central Bank. So mark your calendar, since I heard that's the day after MML in Kansas City. But for $15, all the wings you can eat and beer you can drink. If you want to make donations for the beer, we appreciate that. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you much. I just have 3 quick things. First, we had, I believe it was a week or so ago, Eggs and Issue. We had several U.S. representatives there and state representatives there, and I was fortunate enough to sit at the same table with Blaine Luchtmeyer. And before he left, I said, hey, you got a minute? I want to talk to you about something. And so he brought Carrie, the assistant, over, and I said, I'm telling anybody that'll listen about this thing that I want to do down at Osage Beach, and that is a pedestrian bridge across Grand Glades. And he was very interested, and he brought her down, and he's taking notes, and she's taking notes, and he said, hey, I'm going to talk to some folks about this. And then it'd be a budget item. We can't do it right now, but so we got some ears at Jeff City to maybe help us out. So that'd be awesome. The other thing is, I want to thank Mitch. He joined me at the Missouri State Fair last Monday. They had, and I never can remember exactly what it was, but it's pretty unique. This is normally done at the State House in Washington, D.C., but with an agriculture listening session on the Farm Bill, and we had, the House AG Chairman, G.T. Thompson was there, Mike Parsons, Lieutenant Governor, and we were able to set up a meeting down the road with the Governor and Lieutenant Governor to basically say what's going on here at Osage Beach and let them know, kind of bragging what we're doing, and so thank you, Mitch, for doing that. And then the last thing is, and this is pretty exciting too, is Gina sent out an email the other day, but I'm on the CVB board, and we had the pleasure of meeting the gal that's bringing a movie to Osage Beach. And it should be the first movie to take advantage of the Missouri tax credit. And most of you remember most of the Netflix series Ozark was filmed in Georgia. If you may or may not know that Tulsa King was supposed to be originally Kansas City King, and they got better tax credits in Tulsa. Well, now this is called Niangwa's End, and they're going to start shooting as early as October, and they're even going to be at the shootout and getting some footage with that. So We have a big motion picture. They're looking for some big movie stars to come down here. And I just think it's really exciting. It could be the first movie in the state of Missouri to take advantage of the tax credit right here in our hometown. And even though it's on the Niangua arm, they did say they want to do most of the filming right here. So, and I let her know that we had a parks director that was very interested in being being an extra.
We got
Yeah.
Lakeside Parks Director.
Yes,
I said the
and
same thing.
so she was perceptive of that, and I said, well, while we're talking about it, I wouldn't mind either. So pretty exciting stuff. All right, that's all I have. We are going to move into executive session. So notice is given that an agenda item includes a roll call vote to close the meeting as allowed by RS Mo Section 610.021, legal actions, causes and actions, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys. So if I could have a roll call vote, please, to move into executive session.
Motion to approve.
Need a motion?
I'm sorry.
Need a motion?
Motion to approve, please. Alderman Rucker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rose. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rose?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Hoffman?
Sure.
Alderman Hoffman?
Yes.
He's like, "Hey, good one."
All right. We're moving into executive session, folks. Thank you, everybody. Yes, and
My son's birthday, I'm trying to get home.
board, if we could go there now.